Hello and welcome to Bloomberg Quint. We are in conversation with the CEO and Managing Director of Tata Power, Mr. Praveer Sinha. Of course, we'll be talking about the second quarter earnings as well as the implication of the Supreme Court verdict which came in yesterday for Gujarat-based power companies. Thank you, Mr. Sinha, for speaking to Bloomberg Quint and taking out the time. Let me start with the second quarter earnings as to how really did this shape up for Tata Power, and also specifically if you could tell what was the plant load factor and the plant availability factor for the second quarter.
Good morning and thank you for having me on this call. If you see, all our thermal assets and renewable assets have performed very well. Most of them have met the targets and have also improved vis-a-vis last year, excepting for minor deviations which we had at Maithan because of the non-availability of coal for certain days, which of course has stabilized now. And generally all the other renewable businesses also have performed well, and both in terms of performance parameters as well as financial parameters, they have met the target. So all in all, I can tell you that the company is doing very well and will continue to perform in future also.
Sir, specifically talking about the Mundra power plant, how did it perform for the second quarter, and were the losses more to do with the unwinding of hedges that were done in the second quarter?
Well, on Mundra, there are three things that has happened. One is that we have started blending more of low calorific value coal. So LCVs, which was earlier 10%, we've moved to about 30% in this quarter. And to that extent, the impact on losses has reduced because of that reason, notwithstanding the fact that the devaluation of currency has taken place and also the coal prices have gone up. So to a large extent, it has been offset by using LCV coal. Second aspect is that the plant during the last quarter, we had purposely operated at a lower availability because we still want to just retain to 80% availability at the end of the year, and we had carried out certain maintenance activities and annual O&M activities. So that's where the Mundra is there. Of course, you have heard about the High Power Committee and the report of it, which has been accepted by Gujarat government, and they had filed it in the Supreme Court and the directions of the Supreme Court. So that is another aspect. The last issue that has happened is that we have refinanced all the foreign currency loan that we had for Mundra. So we had nearly $800 million of foreign currency loan. That has all been now done with the Indian loans and partly through equity from the receivable we got from Tata Communication. So it is now fully Indian currency, and the challenge of mark to market and hedging it is now no more.
We'll touch upon the Supreme Court verdict in a bit, sir, but before that, on the Indonesian coal operations, how really did the realizations shape up for Tata Power for the consolidated entity?
The Indonesian coal mine has been doing very well. However, there have been two challenges in this quarter. One is the domestic market obligation, wherein 25% of the production has to be sold at a given price in Indonesia. That had an impact on the type of returns that was expected from the Indonesian coal mine. The second is the market is also contracting for Indonesian coal, especially with the offtake from China being little restricted, and that also had an impact. So with the type of increase of HBA pricing and the type of increase in coal prices which has been there, the returns has been little less, and it has more or less saturated at the level it was last year for the same quarter.
Okay. And sir, since you would be aware of the Supreme Court verdict which came in yesterday, and the high-powered committee report is also in the public domain, what would be your comments, given the fact that the move paves in amendment for the power purchase agreement for the Mundra power plant?
I have not got a copy of the Supreme Court order, but whatever I have heard from people who were present in the court is that the Supreme Court has allowed the amendment to the PPA, which is in line with the PPA conditions, and has also said that in line with the PPA, the supplementary PPA or the revised PPA needs to be approved by the competent authority, and they have given an 8 weeks timeline for completing this exercise. So what we understand that each of the state governments will approve whatever is part of the HPC recommendation, and along with the supplementary PPA to be entered with the suppliers of power, they will approach CERC, which has to decide on this and adjudicate on this matter within 8 weeks.
Okay. Sir, are you hopeful of a tariff revision which is upwards in nature, and more importantly, do you think this upward revision will be, probably be sufficient to cover up the kind of losses which are incurred by the plant currently? And are you also in talks with your creditors in order such that they also take a haircut as recommended by the high-powered committee, so that the tariffs are levelized in a manner such that the plant becomes viable?
See, if you see the High Power Committee report, it has given certain recommendations.
Right.
And the recommendations have been in consultation with the state utilities and the beneficiary states. Now, we expect that based on that, the changes will be made in the PPA. Secondly, the changes in the PPA also considers certain haircuts which needs to be taken in terms of reducing the interest cost and the sharing of the coal mine profit. Now, that's a given thing. It is not that if the lenders do not reduce, will that be passed or not? It has to be passed.
Okay.
So the 20 paisa and the minimum 15 paisa on the profit on the coal mine has to be given. So the 35 paisa has to be given.
Okay.
And when you consider that, today we have under recovery of 85 paisa. 35 paisa has to be there. So whatever benefit that one will get will be between 50 or less than that, depending upon the type of profit that is there in the coal mine.
Okay.
So it will not be that it will fully offset the losses that is being incurred by the generating company. It will partly offset, and the partly which remains, the generator or the developers of the generator will have to bring in certain efficiency and some of the things I mentioned to you, that the blending of coal with LCV coal and all that. Those are the certain operational parameter improvement that the power company has to do.
Okay. And sir, one final question regarding selling of the Mundra power plant. Earlier there were news reports which said that Tata Power was in talk with the state government to sell off the power plant at a token cost. Are you also working on those lines? Sooner or later, would Tata Power look to exit the Mundra power plant operations?
No, it is not there on the discussion table at this stage.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sinha, for speaking to Bloomberg Quint, and all the best for the coming quarters. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So that was the management of Tata Power speaking to Bloomberg Quint. They are hopeful of a resolution for the Mundra power plant, and also in terms of the growth, non-renewable power projects and renewable power projects is something which would drive the growth moving forward. So let's see how really does CERC take up the matter, because the Supreme Court has directed them to look at the amendment in the power purchase agreement in the next 8 weeks or so.